Hey everyone, I hope that you are doing well. We are going through each of the classes in the core player's handbook, and I'm looking to decide what the races are that would best fit a particular class if you're trying to optimize that class. You don't always have to optimize the class. It's not all about the numbers and the mechanics. You know, if you want to build the character that's just the combination that you want, you just got to assign your ability scores in a creative way to make sure that the character is at least effective. But there are definitely going to be certain races that fit better with certain classes, which goes back to the original D&D. There's always been sometimes explicit restrictions in which combinations you could play. That has changed since 3rd edition and is getting more and more flexible. But with 4th edition, there are definitely some races that fit better with those classes. So we're going through each of them and looking to see which races would fit better with each class. We've gone through a couple already. Next one we're going to look at is the wizard and see which races would work better with this wizard class if that's the character you want to play. Before we get into it, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the description for information about becoming a channel member if you want to get early access to videos, or becoming a member through Ko-fi, where you can get access to our very small Discord server. But let's take a look at our wizard here. And the wizard has 3 key abilities that are listed. There's intelligence, intelligence, wisdom, and dexterity. They are not necessarily listed in order, though we will see in a minute that intelligence is by far the most important ability score that you need for your wizard. If you look at some of the class features you have, you'll notice that there is this arcane implement mastery. So there's the orb of imposition that you can choose, and if you do that, that would take advantage of having a higher wisdom modifier. And then there's also the wand of accuracy, which would take advantage of having a dexterity modifier that's with some value to it. So those are a couple uses where your wisdom and your dexterity would come in. If we also extend that to look at our skills that we can choose, so Arcana uses intelligence. That's clearly one that we're going to want, and I'll talk a little bit about why that's especially important in a second. A couple other ones that are important might be religion, which is also based on intelligence, and nature, which is based on wisdom. So those would come in handy also. So it's something to think about. So you can see why those are the key abilities. And the other skills that you have to choose from are, based on charisma, which isn't one of your key abilities, and it's only the one skill, and there's not really a lot with the wizard that's going to be based on charisma from a mechanics perspective. The reason I want to call out the skills with Arcana and Nature and Religion is because as part of being a wizard, you are a ritual caster. And a ritual caster gives you the ability to cast rituals, as you might expect. And if we go and look at the rituals, I have a video where I talk about rituals and go through this chapter and what this means. And these are really like your non-combat spells that you're going to use in other aspects of the game. They come in really handy. And there's, in a lot of cases, when you cast the ritual, you're going to roll a specific check based on the components that it needs. And those checks are skill checks. And so you can see that certain rituals will use Arcana, other ones will use Heal, other ones will use Nature, and other ones will use Religion. So as a wizard, you would have access to Arcana, Nature, and Religion as trained skills. And so you can get training in those skills. And if you have enough of you get to add your ability modifier to it. So if you've really leaned into your intelligence like you should, you can have a really strong Arcana. And therefore, the rituals that use Arcana, such as Arcane Lock, will come in handy. The ones you really want, the ones that have some sort of variation, like Detect Object. So here, the key skill for it is Arcana. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to roll an Arcana check, and then depending on how good of a roll you have with your Arcana check will determine how far away you can detect the object in this case. So by having a really high Arcana, then you're going to be able to detect objects farther away if you use this ritual, and your intelligence is what feeds into your Arcana. So it's something that you definitely want to keep in mind. It's not just about your powers, it's about looking at the other things that you would need to do as that particular character. So intelligence, wisdom, and dexterity are the main ability scores you're after, and you can really see how those ability scores, particularly intelligence, will come into play even as a ritual caster for your wizard. The wisdom and the dexterity we talked about as far as your implement mastery. And beyond that, let's take a look at then the spells. Obviously, with a wizard, everything is going to revolve around your spells, and You want to get the most from those spells that you possibly can. As with other editions of the game, the key ability for your spells as a wizard is going to be your intelligence. Remember, a wizard is a character that is, they study this. This is something they go to libraries and they read through books and they learn about all these ancient things. And that's how they learn to cast these spells. They are students of this world that they're in. And so their intelligence is what directly influences their ability to cast the spells. And so you can see that the at-will powers, it's intelligence across the board. I believe every one of these is intelligence, encounter, intelligence. Your utility spells, not all these you actually require you to roll a check, but the ones that do, dispel magic is based on intelligence. Level 7 we're up to intelligence. I must have skipped a page. I think I did. I skipped a page. But everything is intelligence. So without question, just like when we looked at the rogue and it was dexterity, this one is intelligence. If you're playing a wizard, you're going to want intelligence. And then the benefits that you're going to get from things like wisdom and dexterity are more specific depending on the type of wizard you're trying to play, and determining whether you're going to have your wand of accuracy or you're going to choose your orb of imposition. Those are going to be more nuanced depending on the type of wizard. But without question, without a really strong intelligence, you're going to have a little bit of trouble trying to be successful with some of these different attack spells that you're going to try to use. And so that's what we're after. I believe there's a couple in here where they have some secondary benefits that are based on your dexterity and your wisdom as well, but not very many. So you don't want to be careful about trying to, don't lean too far into the wisdom and dexterity, because if you don't hit with the power, then there's not much point. It's great that you would get this extra benefit if you had wisdom or dexterity, but if you don't hit with the power in the first place, it's not going to make much difference. So something to keep in mind. So without question, we want intelligence more than anything else. We want the intelligence to be high, and then the dexterity and the wisdom are important depending on what type of wizard you're going to try to build and what some of your other choices that you make are. So with that said, let's flip over to our sheet and let's take a look at it. So again, our wizard, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, with intelligence being the most important. And I tell you, we've been through, this is our fourth one, I think maybe we've been through. Maybe it's just our third. I think it's our fourth, where in the previous ones, the Eladrin has not been had a lot of love, and Eladrin is really one of those unique 4th edition classes that came along and was something special. And you can see where it fits here, because what we've got is now we finally get to put Eladrin up at the top of the list. Both of the key abilities, intelligence is one of the keys that you get, bonuses you get with it, which fits right with the wizard, and you get dexterity on top of that, which will help you if you're choosing if the options that you want to select as far as your implement mastery fits, then that's perfect. So without question, the Eladrin goes at the top of the list. That is our tier 1. So there we go. Finally, the Eladrin gets a little bit of love. Next, so that one has an intelligence, and then we're going to go to our tier 2 here, and I think we'll do the Tiefling. The secondary ability that it has is charisma, which doesn't really add a whole lot for our wizard. So it's definitely going to be a tier 2. And we'll put that one over here. It's, so, you're going to get your intelligence, which is what you want. I will go ahead and put the human in there as well. I started this thing out saying I wasn't going to use the humans in these, but I've been, basically referencing the humans in every one of these videos. So, but because you get to choose one ability score that you can, use, obviously you would choose intelligence, and then you'd maximize it and then do the best you can with the rest. So your tiefling and your human are going to be your next tiers, because they also get you intelligence, but you don't get any of the other key abilities that you would need. Then from there, so we've covered our tiefling and our humans there. So now we really get down into some, they're not gonna get you a whole lot. I probably would put the elf as the next tier, because that's they do get dexterity and wisdom, which gives you the secondary bonuses. You still got to figure out a way to get your intelligence so that you can take advantage of it. But then, you know, and when you build the character, you're going to make a choice between the things that give you the bonus with your dexterity or the thing that gives you the bonus with your wisdom. So having both of them doesn't really mean anything, because you're really only going to actually use one of those when you're building the character. The rituals, depending on the skill checks you're using, those are really going to be based on, like, your wisdom would be one of the ones that you're using there. So even the dexterity won't help you a whole lot with that. So then next we would go with our halfling and probably our dwarf. Really, I just would put all three of these into that same tier, because you're going to have to make some choices with those. You've got you're not getting your intelligence. So you're going to need to figure out a way to get high intelligence, and you're getting your bonuses to your wisdom or your dexterity, but you got to choose which type of character you want to play, and that bonus only comes into play in certain circumstances. So it's not as helpful as you might like. And that brings us down to our lowest tier here. And this is probably not a surprise that, you know, the Dragonborn is definitely a character that you think of as a more of a brute type character. And so it's going to, you know, it's got its strength and charisma. So that's not going to help you a whole lot as your wizard. And then your half elf is more about constitution. So it's really a stronger character, but your wizard is going to be way off in the distance casting these spells from afar. So, having a high constitution isn't necessarily as important for that wizard. They're going to be trying to stay out of the fray as much as they can. So those would go down at the bottom. They're not going to line up very much. But I'm glad to see the Eladrin has finally found its home with our wizard, because that was one we've gone through a few of these, and the Eladrin just wasn't making its way to the top at all. It seemed to be towards the bottom, but you can see definitely there with the bonuses that it has with that intelligence, it's going to be very focused on a spellcaster type character would fit. And because it's got the dexterity, if you're going to play, if you're going to choose the implement mastery that fits with the dexterity, that's going to be a perfect fit for you. And then you can choose some feats that actually leverage that dexterity as well. So lots of good things if you're going to choose an Eladrin wizard, if you want to go that way. The tiefling and the human would be also fine, because you get that intelligence, which is really what it's after. And so any one of the ones that have intelligence are going to help you. They're not going to get you the other bonuses that would help flow. So that's what puts them down just a little bit below the Eladrin, but still very good choices. And then the rest of them, you know, you've got to get creative to make those work, but they are certainly options. You can make any character work if you want to get creative with everything. So, but glad to see that the Eladrin can finally be at the top of the list here. That's something that is unique to 4th edition. So it's good to see that it's found a worthy class in the wizard, and I think that you can't go wrong if you go that route. So hopefully you found that helpful. Love to hear your thoughts on anything that maybe I got wrong down in the comments, or anything that you'd like to add to anyone who's trying to make a wizard character, and things that they might kind of consider that I didn't cover or just glossed over a little too quickly. Please do add those down into the comments. And as always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out the description for other ways that you can support through either a channel membership or a Ko-fi membership. But that's what I have for now. Until next time, take care.